So now we have a rudimentary understanding of what really goes on under the hood for QML. Let's start diving into QML itself and learn some really cool features. So we're going to call this QML for beginners, and this is 3.4. I'm just going to whip through that because we're leaving everything as the default. What we're going to demonstrate in this video is what's called X, Y, and Z. Now, if you don't know what X, Y, and Z is, it's a coordinate system. So here's X, Y, and Z. X and Y are pretty simple and pretty easy to understand. It's just the coordinates on the screen, and this is probably something you've known for a long, long time. So X goes across, Y goes down. The higher the number, the further down, or the further across. So 0, 0 is always the corner. In this case, it's over here, 0, 0, and then it goes out. And let's just demonstrate that real quick here. So we're going to call that image. Doesn't really matter what we call it. Probably be helpful if we spelled image correctly. And let's just copy and paste a source here. So now we have an image. Let's run and see what this looks like. Ta-da! Let's set the width and height. Make it a little bit smaller so we can move it around. Width 100, height, and let's call this 100 as well. Actually, let's switch the width here to 150. Let's see what this looks like. Much, much smaller. We've got a lot of room to move around. In case you're wondering, yes, you can resize the window. Now let's play around with the XY coordinates. We're going to say X, 100. Y, 100. Notice how it's not at 0, 0. It is now at 100, 100. There's an invisible little corner here you can't really see, but it's right there at 100, 100. And we can play around with that a little bit. So let's say 100 across, 50 down. This is in pixels. So we are 100 across, 50 down. We could actually set this to 10 down just to demonstrate. Pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. And I'm just going to set that back to 100, and we're going to add some more elements here. So I'm going to say rectangle, and we're going to make a red rectangle. And let's say width, height 200. And we're going to set the positions on this. So we're going to say this is at 50 and 50. And I want to change the opacity just so we can see what's going on here. Opacity determines, well, how transparent it is. And we're going to set this at 50% or 0.5. And through the magic of copy and paste, we're going to make another rectangle. This one's going to be called blue, or I should say it's going to be the color blue. And it's going to be 200 by 200, and we want to put this at 150, and let's put this at 150 as well. And let's just run and see what this looks like. You can see we've got a little bit of a mix mash here. So we've got our cute logo with a red rectangle and a blue rectangle, and there's overlap. That's the opacity there where you're able to see through them. So what we have now is layers. And that's actually the Z axis. So we understand that X is across, Y is down. Z is the layering effect, or top to bottom. Think of it like you're looking down at your desk, and whatever you set down first is going to be on the bottom, the cute logo, right here. So let's go ahead and play around with this. Oop, same thing. So let's run around and let's set the Z-axis on the rest of these. And let's set this to 2. And let's set this one to 1. Notice how nothing's changed. Why? Because the lower the number, the bottom. So let's set this to 4. Suddenly, that logo pops up to the top because it's higher up in the stack. It's on top of all the other papers. It's a higher number. So whenever you think Z-axis, lower is lower. So we can actually set these to all zeros. What happens there? Notice how it's the same thing. And let's set this If you don't include the z-axis, they're all 0 by default, and this is what happens. Right back to where we started. Now you understand, each thing that you add goes higher up on the stack. So if we were to take this and put it down here, notice how they're all 0 z-axis, but this is at the top of the stack now because it was the last thing added. It's pretty simple to understand, but sometimes you got to really wrap your head around it. Now, because this is at the top of the stack, because we added it last, we could actually send it to the bottom by increasing these guys. So let's put him at 1 and him at 2. Ta-da, right back at the bottom.